thank you for
Indeed. Thanks for the lovely introduction. Just a question. I would like the trailer of our game played before my presentation, if that's possible, please. Which I informed them of very late, so just don't count this against them. That was 100% on me. Hi everyone, voy a hablar en inglés, pero si tienen preguntas en español, si los preguntan lentamente, yo puedo comprender. Si no comprendo, voy a contrapreguntar. Estoy muy agradecida de estar aquí hoy, pero va a estar un poquito más simple hacerlo en inglés. Si no comprenden algo, por favor, simplemente pueden interrumpirme, no me da mucha vergüenza, y simplemente vamos a ver cómo funciona. Okidoki. So back to English. A trailer should appear shortly. Thank you.
The CIA has particular skills in
It does. Yeah, so I don't know what the CIA is doing spying on my presentation. I'm not that interesting. But yeah, this is indeed, as Andreas said, and I'm very grateful for his invitation here today, as well as the CIVIS conference. This is my very first game title. Before that, I was full-time in music. And I had approached games before from a musical world-building perspective, but yeah, this is my first professional title. So let's have a look at Dungeons of Hinterberg. I'm going to follow along on my phone a little bit so that I can see what I'm saying, because I don't have this memorized. This is a magical lens for down-to-earth themes. What does that mean? Who controls the slides? Is that me or is that someone else? Ah, awesome. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing great already, aren't I? Okay, oh yay, okay, so about me. You heard all about me already, but I'm gonna tell you a little bit more from the personal angles, I guess. So yeah, I'm mostly with a background in opera composition, audio production, streaming management, research. I was actually on a research project for, it was called Transcoding What If, out of Kunstuniversität Graz, that dealt with participatory art and artistic research. So I had a bit of a background already in related themes. I am also part of an association in Austria called the Pioneers of Game Dev Austria. What we do is we do outreach and representation of interests for Austrian game developers, and especially important for indies. So last year I founded a mentorship program there. It's called the Digital Mentorship, which I didn't have time for anymore after the game launch. Things became really, really busy. So some wonderful colleagues took that over. I had a sort of co-captain, Raphael Moser, and he and his team are working on that right now. But I'm still an ambassador for the association, so if you have any interest in the Austrian game dev scene, come talk to me. All right, more about me. Languages, I'm a huge language nerd. Coffee, huge coffee nerd, mostly drinking it. And I have a bunch of other interests which we don't have to get into right now. Let's keep going. All right, I'm going to give you a quick abstract because we probably already forgot it. So basically, a really quick summary. The contemporary world collides with magic in Dungeons of Hinterberg, Microbird Games 2024. Playing as Luisa, you visit Hinterberg in the Austrian Alps and explore 25 magical dungeons full of mythical monsters. This talk explores how Dungeons of Hinterberg approaches socially relevant topics such as personal growth, community, over-tourism, the environment, and mythology and folklore, and how these topics can be effectively explored in contemporary media such as games. All right, my first slide, a magical lens for reality. It might help if I can see it from here. Yeah, this is great. This is actually much better. So basically, as some of the other presenters have already said, the medium of the video game is a really great vehicle for cultural knowledge, and it can illustrate serious concepts as well as stuff that's a little more fun. And combining those into one package where people find this subject matter accessible is a really cool thing that we now have the means to do technologically. So in our games, there's various ways that this is accomplished, but today I'm going to focus on social relationships. So you'd think a game that's a single-player RPG action-adventure isn't very social, but ours is social insofar as the various NPCs and your introspective monologues tackle these various subjects. Yeah, talking about what matters. So what matters to these characters is maybe what matters to people in the wider society. We do have deeper subjects, storyline with more serious implications, social dynamics as well, introversion, extroversion. Our main character is quite introverted when she begins, at least. And NPCs are used as a sort of vehicle for transmitting different types of I guess, themes that they find important to them, and maybe you will find important to yourself as well. Some of these may be larger, some of these may be considered smaller or more selfish, but I think they're all equally valid. So let's begin with inner life. So some characters' stories are just all about them, and what is more important for them is maybe they're talking about their inner growth, right? So it's more intra than interpersonal. And let's get personal. So Luisa is someone that we are meant to relate to. This is our playable character. And she's opening up to strangers, making new friends, and really rediscovering herself in Hinterberg. But what's interesting here is that we use a lot of devices borrowed from literature because she's kind of a lens for the other characters. She's kind of a tabula rasa, if you will, for what you will be conveying as you yourself, the player. So the player might be interested in exploring different things. So you have different NPCs to talk to, different adventures, different play styles. You can either be very adventurous and do a dungeon every day, or you can sit by the lake, or you can just talk to someone all the time. It's really your choice. But Luisa's inner life is rich. She talks to herself a lot, which is great for the player, I hope. All right, so we're going to meet a few of the residents of Hinterberg. And the first one is Marina, and she's my personal favorite because she has a really sunny outlook, and she's from España, yay. She's an exchange student, always with a smile, and she deals with difficult situations with aplomb and a lot of tact, sometimes not really leaving room for herself. Jay is an interesting character because she has burnout, and this is a topic that I find is not something that is commonly tackled in the AAA titles, but is tackled a lot in indie games, that we're talking more about mental health and what that means for us, and why is it important to talk about mental health. Now you could say, okay, this isn't a huge theme about social impact, but what is really social impact? It's about people, right? So Jay is just talking about her feeling overwhelmed. She's a famous star, she's also a musician, and she can't do it all anymore. So you as Luisa, as you play, you maybe tell her to calm down a bit, find room for herself. And maybe along the process, if you're the player, this might cause some reflections for you. All right, so we have more selfish characters too. I love Travis. He's French, and he is incredibly selfish. Not to create any stereotypes, this is just hilarious, because he's one of my favorites because he has a huge growth arc. So Travis, this quote I included on purpose. So he says, "Just so we're clear, if this backwater hole had options, I wouldn't be caught dead in here." So he's in the local bar, dissing it, right? So Travis is afraid to go into any dungeon, but we soon find out that's trauma-based. He's had a difficult time. He's always had to fend for himself. And he's writing for this sort of in-game version of Vice magazine. He's really, really trendy, but he's too cool for it. And as Louisa gets to know him, she realizes that he's using trauma as a defense mechanism. So we have discussions or maybe difficult personal subjects here. And authenticity is important here because he really finds his authentic self. All right, so this microphone's too close to my face. Alex is the inquisitive mentor character. And this is an interesting character because what she does is she shows up in Hinterberg. She's a real estate agent. And she's the first person Louisa kind of runs into after the hotel hostess and the trainer. So maybe third, fourth person she runs into in Hinterberg. And so Alex is very self-assured. Alex seems to have it all figured out. And Alex also points Louisa in the right directions in the game. She says, hey, Louisa, have you noticed that this thing is weird, that thing is weird? Maybe not all is as it seems. But then, when it comes time, there's a little bit of an interplay where maybe Louisa has to motivate Alex a little bit, and you see where people can sort of help each other out. I find this a very, very interesting character because it's a friendship that you're forced to take through the game. So we have some optional relationships and some relationships you have to play through. And this is one of those that you have to play through. And so Alex really provokes those difficult questions. What did you hope to find here, Louisa? Did you hope to find yourself? Are you just here to exploit this tourist trap? And that's leading us to community life. Community life is not important to all the NPCs, but it's very important to some of them. And they're concerned more about their surroundings than about themselves or others or interpersonal relationships. They focus on larger groups, larger systems. And these conversations bring to mind the topics you'd traditionally associate with social impact. Maybe community building over tourism, environmentalism. But in my opinion, all of those other things that came before are no less valid because all of those aspects are elements of what you then build on to create social impact. So we have Klaus the alpinist, and yes, that is a real word, mountaineer, dedicated to the Alps. So this is a very interesting character. This is the first character you really interact with in the game, and he shows you around the dungeons. He's kind of like a David Attenborough type, and he's deeply dedicated to the mountains, to nature, preservation, hates litter, has a little station where you can clean things up, bring him the litter, recycle, all of that. He has vegan schnitzel. He's got it all sort of categorized in his mind that he wants to present this face of Hinterberg. Okay, I want this village to be improving. I'm a little worried about the over-tourism here, but I'm making the best of it. I'm the trainer. I'm keeping these tourists safe. So he's kind of an honorable village figure. And he's unapologetically himself, which is pretty cool for an NPC. All right, so we come to one of my favorite characters here, Thea, the rebel with a cause. Thea is a teenager, and she is incredibly upset about Hinterberg. Hinterberg is full of tourist slayers. They're here, they're having a blast, they're polluting, they're throwing garbage all over the beautiful mountain. You're one of these tourists. So Thea, when she meets you, is a little bit confrontational. She's like, hey, Louisa, what are you doing here? Do you think it's so cool staring at the locals? So all of this kind of storytelling is not only, oh, yay, you're our friend, I'm your friend, I'm the NPC, and all of a sudden you show up and we're gonna help you. You have to earn some trust, and that is really the case with Thea because she is uncovering a plot in the village that is threatening it, and she has a lot of scorn for politicians, for what's going on in the village, and scorn for tourists, including at the beginning yourself. Another character that's really caring about these group dynamics here is Danny the environmentalist, who wants to use their fame and platform to talk about the environmental impact. But they fear their own hypocrisy because Danny is a prodigy with a strong conscience, but they're here, they're slaying, they're polluting as much as everyone else. And so that's something that I think our game approaches in a unique way, talking about the hypocrisy of social change. And we have these two lovely ladies. They have been here forever. And They have seen the village change, and they don't feel there's room for them anymore. So Teresa runs your local inn. She's on the left. You check in with her, and Gertrude on the right has been coming here every summer for her entire life, and she doesn't like what's happening to the village. Now we come to folklore and setting, not really the focus of this talk, but as you can see, all these characters are framed in this beautiful mountain environment. As you saw in the trailer, you're fighting these magical monsters, and it's steeped in the alpine myths of the region. So this is where we link sort of tradition and folklore to a character. Albert is a comparative mythologist, so we invented a sort of character for the game that approaches this in some sort of academic way. And he is, however, not very practical. He doesn't like to go into the dungeons. You good? And he hates basically dealing with the practicalities of magic, but he researches it a lot. So he helps Luisa out with all these information things, and you know, he's at the first skill shrine where you learn how to use magic, but he's not actually gonna do it himself. Oh no, 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 he's just researching. He's gonna send a grad student, and over time, if you do choose to hang out with him, he might develop his storyline into something a little more practical. So, the monsters in our game actually just reflect local mythology. Each creature is rooted in a local legend. We researched all of these creatures. And the biome bosses are also magical creatures based on local alpine myths. Oops. Oh, this goes. I can see the difficulty everyone had. Okay, so this is a terrible pun. You can laugh if you want, but you don't have to. The Percht is a local mythological creature. You can see on the upper left, so I called this pertinent information. You don't have to humor me. And so this is just one example for one of our monsters. The other is a Pitzel, who's a sneaky little fiend. And basically, these monsters are all based on real mythological creatures with their own mythologies and stories in local culture. This is also the case for the Tatzelwurm, a sort of cat-headed dragon creature, which is one of our biome bosses. So what we did also is reflected in each biome the different characteristics. We have a forest biome, a mountain biome, a glacier biome, and a swamp biome. And the bosses sort of reflect the mythologies that came from those kind of environments. So basically, here we come to the more sort of social change things that are usually considered stereotypically more important or more significant, especially when it comes to discussions of social change. We're talking about ecology, we're talking about natural beauty, and various NPCs are going to comment as you go along things about these natural wonders. Like you have an NPC on the glacier saying, wow, I've never seen snow before. I've never seen a glacier before. And that's also alluding to the glacier recession. And we have an NPC that's spouting these facts about peat bogs. And peat mining is extremely destructive. We actually have a very large system of wetlands in Austria that are incredibly biodiversity important. And so one of these NPCs tells you about it, but on the side, you know, you're going along, you get into the peat bog and you ask, what is this? Well, rather you press A to talk to the NPC and the NPC tells you a little bit about it. And I really find our game is a beautiful love letter to nature and its preservation, because it's not doing so overtly. It's not telling you environmentalism good. It's just showing you something, and it's saying, you know, this is worth preserving, this is beautiful. How is it worth preserving? Is interaction on a tourist level always the best idea for this? Is what Luisa's doing the best idea for this? Should she be mindful when she's going around? Should the other slayers going through the dungeons be mindful or not? Or what is the bigger problem here? And I don't want to spoil too much because we do have a deep mystery in the village, but let's say we have a nefarious character as well. And they're incredibly creepy and things are not going to be as they seem. But this nefarious character also brings up a lot of the aspects of commercialization, which the characters will engage with. So basically, there's a lot more to our game than simply NPCs, but I tried to use these kind of very day-to-day conversations that Louisa would have as a framework of reference for various topics that our game addresses. I wouldn't call it tangential, but I would say that the nice thing about an action RPG carrying these themes is that you're not being overt. You're being almost covert. You're giving someone a game that they want to play, they go into it, and they're not going to think, oh, I'm going to talk to the environmentalist. I'm going to talk to the alpinist who wants to clean up the dungeons. You're going to get little incentives. You pick up a bunch of glowing loot, and you notice, recyclable trash. Recyclable trash. And then you'll try to find who can give you some money for that recyclable trash. So it's a little bit, you know, I guess I can use the word, the dreaded word, gamified, but I think in our context it works. Actually I agree with Claudia that gamification as of itself is a troubling concept, but we do use mechanisms, mechanics in our game to encourage tackling certain subjects in a way that we find not to be I guess, too dominant to the gameplay, but still very much present in the setting of the game. These are my social channels. You can follow me. You can talk to me after in person. And if you have any questions about the game, about the studio, please feel free now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a thing that I'm interested about. One of the themes of the game is over tourism. It's something we are discussing a lot, especially in Italy, for example, when we think of cities like Venice and the problem related to the tourists. Have you ever thought that a game like this can create a new itineraries or maybe make some the town where that inspired the game can be I don't know if it's really a very touristic town or not, but do you think that games can contribute to create new tourist itineraries or something like that?
Actually, this is not a real town. There are a few Hinterbergs around, but this is an imaginary every town. But yeah, I do think they can. But I also think the game questions whether that's how the balance of tourism versus local works. Because yes, I do think that a game has the potential to increase tourism to Austria, for example, to the Alps. But our very nature of our game questions the balance between the destructiveness and the benefit of such a thing. More so than that, I think the inner life is very important in our game. So that's why I focused so heavily on the personal growth aspect. I think the game has much more potential to make you reflect, okay, what am I doing with my life? Am I reaching my goals? Am I really moving forward to what's important to me? Each NPC has their own priorities and they're sort of presenting them. And you're reflecting, you're developing, you're kind of trying to align yourself. Do I think like Danny? Do I think, you know, that I'm a hypocrite and I want to be more environmental? Or do I think more like Klaus and I want to save the mountains? Or maybe I want to go with Taya and protest something. So yeah, I do think that completely right. It can increase tourist thought and visiting and thinking about a place and inciting that. Absolutely. But it also is a vehicle for critique of those phenomena. Okay. Yeah.
Is there any question from the public? No?
No question.
Oh, there's a question.
Yay!
Oh.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my question was, how did the characters develop over the course of you developing the game? Like, did their arcs change as maybe you iterated on it?
Okay, so I'm the producer, so I'm not actually the one who wrote the game. That was in large part, we have two co-founders, Philipp Seifried and Regina Reisinger. Philipp was technical direction, Regina was art direction. And so Philipp did the majority of the story. It was a lot of writing of very large-scale plans, and most of it was pretty fixed, I would say. The only thing that changed during the course of development of the game was more refining subject matter. Some characters shifted their perspectives and became deeper. There was, for example, a storyline for one of the characters that was, just to create conflict in the way that some sort of dramatic arc would be playing out, like writing a script. And then we realized that's just not working for this character. It's too out of nowhere. And so, informed by playtests as well, there were some writing tweaks, like people would become more gentle, more convincing, but it was just trying to make it as natural as possible. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thanks. Who doesn't?
So no more questions. So it's thank you,
Thank
Clio.
you.
And so it's time for a break, and we are going to start again in 15 minutes, so we can have a coffee. So thank you again, Clio, and
you so
see
much.
you in 15 minutes.